Good morning, sports fans. June is the month that we celebrate Father's Day, of course. For John Monro, our guest this morning, his dad, Burt, will forever be known as the world's fastest Indian. And John is with us to share some memories of one of the most famous motorcycle racers of all time. Good morning, John. How are you?
Good morning, Bobby. I'm pretty good.
When I decided to reach out to you to see about having you here on the show, part of it also was to tell your story, but then, of course, to reminisce and tell a little bit about your father's story. I mean, to me, when we celebrate Father's Day here in the month of June, there are so many people that have grown up with sports and basically kind of being passed those traditions from their dad. I was wondering what it was like to have such a famous father, someone that people still, of course, talk about to this day.
Of course, during my younger years, Dad was just a dad. He did what dads do, look after the family and indulge in playing with his toys and that sort of thing. So what he did to myself and my sisters as children was not remarkable. People have asked me, what was it like having a famous dad, but, he was just a dad.
Well, I think his story, I mean, you make the point about, coming to life in books and, of course, in the film that came out in 2005 with Anthony Hopkins. But I think for me, I had known your dad's story. I actually had not seen the film, but one film that I did see was the documentary that came out in 1971, Offerings to the God of Speed. That was the first time I had really learned about your dad's legacy. And I think the film itself also kind of brings it together even more so because they kind of condense some of those events into something more for the feature film.
Yes, that's right. After the documentary was made by Roger Donaldson, I met with him and Dad in Auckland, New Zealand, in 1972. And Rogers said, this documentary was quite successful. And I can still remember Roger saying to Dad, I wanted to do a feature film about you. The documentary wasn't good enough. And Dad said, what's a feature film? And Roger said, well, hour and a half, 2 hours. And Dad said, oh, you're crazy, suit yourself. But Roger, over the years, persisted in getting towards doing a feature film, and he wrote some scripts and produced to some of the major companies in the film industry, and their response was, it was a great script, but they wanted a lot more sex and a lot more violence in the script, and Roger, to his credit, refused to do that. So in the late 90s, early 2000, be the late 90s, Roger spoke with me, and he was getting on with writing or rewriting the script and trying to raise money and that sort of thing. So I spent a lot of time with him, and my sisters did, and others in the New Zealand motorcycle fraternity and in the US, spent a lot of time with Roger refining things. And in due course, the film was made in 2004, and I was on the Salt in Bonneville while it was being made, and spent quite a bit of time with Sir Anthony Hopkins.
And I was just about to ask you about him, John, because, I mean, of course, he's one of the greatest actors of all time. What was it like to work with Anthony Hopkins, and did he really capture your father's, not only his legacy, but just pretty much his mannerisms and everything about him?
Oh, yes, he did. He played the part really well, and to his credit and to Roger's credit, they both took a lot of notice of what the family provided, and there was nothing in the film that went against family's wishes. And when I first met Sir Anthony, Roger introduced me, and as Burt's son, and he said, "Just call me Tony," and I put my arm around him and said, "Hello, Dad." You know, we got on pretty well thereafter.
Yes.
And later on, when the New Zealand section of the film was being made, we spent more time with him, and yes, he was. He said to me at the time. I said to him at the time, you know, what's it like in the film industry? You know, how many films have you made? And he said, well, this is my 105th, and I've never enjoyed making a film so much. And I said, why is that? And his response was, well, I get to play a real person and I can react. I'm not just playing a part out of someone's imagination, you know, and that sort of thing. So, yeah, it was a great time making the film. And the years afterwards have given me the opportunity of furthering Dad's legacy around the world.
When I, knew so much about your dad, but of course, when I got a chance to see the film, inspired even more. And I had reached out to a man named Mike Walsh of B&W Manufacturing, a jeweler in New Zealand, where you live. And he produces this beautiful ring, which I know is with your consent of the family, a tribute to your dad, the Burt Monro ring. And I thought it was pretty cool to talk about it because there's only 184 of this ring made. I know that you have the very first one. I have number 68. Of course, I asked for number 68 because that was your dad's age when he set that incredible record. I think it's impressive that he was able to follow his dreams and didn't let something like age get in the way of that.
Yeah, that's, you'll notice the inscriptions around the edges of the ring too, which is quite significant. And the 184 representing the speed, of course. And yes, you're quite right. I do have number one.
Well, I mean, one of your dad's most famous quotes, if you don't follow through on your dreams, you might as well be a vegetable. I mean, that's something that should ring true to everyone, whether or not they are into motorcycles and pretty much in anything when it comes to life. And it's such an inspirational story. I know, like I said, I wanted to, quickly touch on your life and your career and what you've been doing basically to try to keep his legacy going in addition to, your day-to-day activities there in New Zealand.
I've never believed doing things by the book because what's in the book is what someone else has done. And that didn't suit me very well because as an employee, I was never very good at doing what I was told. So I set out to do things myself. And that's some genes that I obviously have inherited from Dad's side of the family because not only Dad was a developer and an inventor, but two of his uncles were who invented things some of which are still in use today and still manufactured today. So a mechanical gene, I don't know whether there is such a thing, but it seems to work.
Well, John, there's no doubt that the spirit of Monro lives on, thanks to you. And I really appreciate you taking the time with us this morning. It's so great to reminisce and talk about your dad. Just like I said, a remarkable and an incredible story. We encourage those to check out the books, the documentary, the movie, and, you're never too old to accomplish your dreams. And that's something that your dad taught us.